The House Rules Committee will come to order. Would the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Schutte.
Here.
Representatives Aragona.
Here.
Wenzel. Here. Martin.
Here.
Posthumus. DeBoer.
Here.
Whitwer.
Here.
Liberati.
Here.
Herzberg.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Representative DeBoer moves to adopt the minutes of the April 17th meeting. There being no objections, the motion prevails by unanimous consent. All right, first today in the Rules Committee, we will be taking up House Bill 4007, and Representative Bohnak will be here to testify on behalf of 4007. Representative, please start when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and fellow committee members. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of my House Bill 4007. This bill would ensure that Upper Peninsula's 13 reciprocating internal combustion generators, the so-called RICE units run on natural gas, stay online through the end of their life cycle in 2049. Our RICE generators play a vital role to our energy grid in the Upper Peninsula due to their reliability and affordability from our most populated county and city in Marquette to our most rural villages. With the green energy laws passed in the previous legislature taking effect, RICE generators would be mandated to go offline 10 years before the end of their life cycle. They only went online in 2019. This would ultimately raise prices on all UP residents and businesses. In fact, one estimate said that over time, UP residents would see their power bills double. Despite the UP having lower CO2 emissions than the rest of the state, shutting down the RICE generators before the end of their life cycle would force money out of the pockets of our hardworking, blue-collar workers that they simply don't have. It's important that we continue to make the UP a great place to raise a family and to live. And shutting down our RICE generators wouldn't only force our families out, but also their employers. UMERC, which is a utility that put up the RICE generators, would be charging a renewable energy surcharge that in 2027 alone would mean over $1 million per month for the Tilden mine in Marquette County. And that would rise to over $13 million by 2045. Needless to say, that is just not sustainable. I thank you for your time and consideration, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Representative Bohnak. Appreciate you bringing this bill before the committee. Do we have any questions, members? All right. Thank you, Representative Bohnak. We have some cards to read in here. Carly Knott from the Michigan Environmental Council does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Chris Gilmer-Hill from the Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Denise M. Keel from the Michigan Climate Action Network does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Daryl Slaughter from the NRDC does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Alexis Blisman from the Ecology Center does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Patty O'Keefe from Vote Solar does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Jim Minota from the Sierra Club does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Marta Johnson from Michigan Climate Cabinet does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. Nick Okapinti from the Michigan League of Conservation Voters does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. And Elizabeth Del Buono from the Michigan Coalition for Climate does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. And Paula Bowman and Denise Hartsaw from the League of Women Voters does not wish to speak and opposes the bill. With that, Representative Wenzel moves to report House Bill 4007 with recommendation. Would the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Schutte.
Yes.
Representatives Aragona.
Yes.
Wenzel.
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Posthumous, DeBoer,
Yes.
Whitwer,
Yes.
Liberati,
Yes.
Hersberg.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 pass. The motion prevails.
House Bill 4007 is reported with recommendation. All right. Now we will be taking up House Bill 4345, and Representative Cavett will be testifying. Representative, welcome, and please testify when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today. Appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of my bill to forgive the school days that were canceled during the historic 2025 ice storms. As someone who strongly believes in the importance of classroom instruction, I do not bring this legislation forward lightly, but the storm that hit our region wasn't just another winter weather event. It brought destruction on a scale no one living had ever seen. Schools across our area were dealing with downed trees, power lines, impassable roads, destroyed infrastructure, and widespread outages of power and water. Closing wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. This bill passed the House Education and Workforce Committee unanimously with bipartisan support. I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for recognizing the extraordinary nature of this situation and the need for swift relief, legislative relief. I respectfully urge this committee to do the same, to move this bill forward with unanimous support. Our students, parents, and educators deserve clarity and compassion in the wake of this disaster. Without this bill, many districts face severe scheduling and funding consequences for circumstances entirely beyond their control. The substitute added caps the amount of days forgiven at 15. The worst day in my school, the most school days taken by a school district, it was 13. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Cavett. Any questions, members of the committee? And yeah, I appreciate the substitute capping the amount at 15 days into what's allowed. I think that's a good change. Well, thank you very much, Representative Cavett.
Thank you, Chairman.
And Representative Martin, thank you, moves to adopt the substitute. Would, as there is a H1 substitute, would the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to adopt the H1, Chair Schutte,
Yes.
Representatives Aragona,
Yes.
Wenzel,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Posthumous, DeBoer,
Yes.
Whitwer,
Yes.
Liberati,
Yes.
Hersberg.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 pass. The motion does prevail.
The H1 substitute is adopted. And Representative Martin again moves to report House Bill 4345 as substituted with recommendation. Would the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Schutte,
Yes.
Representatives Aragona,
Yes.
Wenzel,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Posthumous, DeBoer,
Yes.
Whitwer,
Yes.
Liberati,
Yes.
Hersberg.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 pass. The motion does prevail.
All right. House Bill 4345 is reported as substitute with recommendation. Some good bipartisanship in the Rules Committee today, so appreciate that. All right. We'll now be hearing testimony on House Bill 4103. Representative Rogers, you are welcome to testify when ready.
Chair Schutte and members of the committee, thank you very much for listening to my testimony. I will speak on my bill, House Bill 4103, but please know that it is tie-barred with my partner, Representative Wozniak, on 4104. This bipartisan package also passed unanimously out of Health Policy Committee. The Occupational Therapy Compact is an interstate professional licensing compact for occupational therapists and assistants, which will address licensure portability. It allows OTs to practice in all states that have joined the compact. These bills are reintroductions of House Bill 4169 and 4170 from last term, which passed the House chamber 103-6 and had a few technical changes in the Senate and so died in lame duck. Occupational therapists and assistants promote health and well-being by assisting patients with activities of daily living. Think about things like dressing yourself, bathing, toileting, all those things that we all do automatically when we don't have physical limitations. The Occupational Therapy Compact authorizes practice based on a valid, unrestricted home state license in other compact member states for both occupational therapists who have master's or doctoral degrees and occupational therapist assistants who have associate's degrees. As a practicing physical therapist myself who works alongside other PTs, PTAs, OTs, and CODAs, I can personally share with you that we have many workforce issues just like several other healthcare professions. In fact, one of the many reasons I still practice physical therapy a few days a month at my local hospital is because our hospitals are desperate for healthcare workers and need each and every one of us who pick up weekend and other shifts to help rehabilitate our patients who are in need. And when we don't have enough therapists, there can be additional hospital costs as discharges are often delayed. You see, we often are the specialists who help the medical team determine what type of setting is most appropriate for patients to safely discharge to. And when I can't get to someone to make that evaluation, they sometimes must stay overnight an extra day until they can be evaluated. So these workforce issues can have an impact on both quality of care for patients and an institution's bottom line. And the need for occupational therapy is not diminishing. In fact, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics forecasts, 17% increase in the number of occupational therapist positions by 2030. The need is growing year over year for these services, and we must consider any and all solutions to expand workforce access for these professionals. Interstate compacts are designed to have a common set of licensure requirements so that therapists can practice seamlessly from state to state without delays. 31 other states have successfully joined the Interstate OT Compact. This can also help military families, both OTs who serve themselves in the armed forces and their spouses can be helped with this type of streamlining, as they are often moved from base to base across the country. And sometimes it can be as long as a 9-month delay in getting a new license in another state. This also helps our border states like Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Michigan, and that southern state down south we don't like to mention. In fact, residents in the Upper Peninsula have one of Michigan's most underserved areas for healthcare. And one of my friends lives in Wisconsin and practices in Michigan and must have the extra burden of maintaining a license in each state. Occupational therapists already undergo significant education to practice in their field, and these highly educated professionals will make decisions about where to practice and live based on accessibility. Tearing down barriers to entry into the profession while maintaining high levels of training standards will attract these healthcare professionals instead of driving them away. Ultimately, these bills should streamline the process and help therapists enter into Michigan's workforce more quickly. Again, thank you to Rep. Wozniak for joining me on this package, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Rogers. So just a question regarding the compact. Are there current rules that are not in place in Michigan for occupational therapists that we now have to follow if we were to enter into the compact?
No.
Okay. And and then in the other 31 states that it's been operating, have you seen data or information that it's increased participation in the fields, or is that something that you've witnessed? Yeah.
Yes, they are saying it's helping streamline. So like I said, the most common are military families as well as border states. So that's where the most common number of people that enter into the compact, they tend to be on border states. They also help with traveling. So a number of young people have approached me that are coming out of universities in Michigan, and they are looking to move to a state that is in an interstate compact because they want to be a traveling therapist for a period of time when they're young. And so this also helps with retaining some of the young talent that is leaving our state because we're currently not in that compact.
Is it possible to receive a Michigan-only OT license under this, or are all licenses wrapped into the compact?
I believe you can request that. I believe that can be accommodated.
Interesting. If you just like really hate the idea of being able to practice in Ohio or something like that. Okay. Well, great. Any other questions from members of the committee? All right. Thank you very much, Representative Rogers. We will now be hearing testimony on House Bill 4309. Representative Prestin, welcome, and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 4309, Physician Assistance Licensure Compact, is all about breaking down barriers, creating more capacity, and giving healthcare providers the flexibility that they need to move across state lines, ensuring that the quality is there. And the compact functions well, and in an area where workforce shortage in the healthcare industry is an issue, especially in rural America and rural Michigan. This is going to be a transformational thing for leveraging, assets across state lines and just giving healthcare systems and healthcare in general the flexibility it desperately needs. So, happy to answer any questions.
Representative Preston, you obviously represent a border area with Wisconsin. How would you see that this compact potentially impacting, whether it's our border with Wisconsin or the states down south? How do you view that?
So the neighboring states, and when we become part of it, it allows them, like as a paramedic right now, I serve both in Wisconsin when I'm on duty as well as in Michigan. I have to carry dual licensure. This really erases that aspect of it. The compact enables them to practice across state lines, to move freely through the healthcare systems across those state lines, and that's really what the compact provides. It provides a level playing field where the PAs are licensed and governed by their home state, but because they're included in the compact, any compact participant is able to use those assets as well.
And then would this require PAs in Michigan to follow additional rules or additional procedures for Michigan to qualify under the compact?
I think that would,
No.
That's a simple answer. That's a simple answer. There you go. There you go. I appreciate the brevity. Very nice. All right, Representative Preston, thank you very much. Any testimony you'd like to share, provide?
Thank you. Thad Gormis, Executive Director for the Michigan Academy of PAs. I just want to share that you have in front of you and online as well testimony from Jody McCullum. She's the Director of Trauma at the hospital in Marquette. And you can see in her testimony that she talks about, with her 23 years of experience, managing trauma all over that area of the UP and along that border, how critical this is to her team. I'll also point out, too, that in Green Bay, there's a large health system there, the largest. About half of their providers are PAs, and they have many specialists that don't exist in the UP. So Michigan residents have to travel there to get that care. When they come back to Michigan, they can't have their prescription filled. They can't have virtual follow-up visits. It's a very tough issue regarding access for our residents, for Michigan residents in that area, when they're being treated the only place they can be, which is Green Bay. So that's why it's particularly important to, I think, Representative Preston and then also our board member, Jody, who provided testimony. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate, Dave, your testimony. Appreciate you sharing those thoughts as well. And I'm going to read in a few cards. Not wishing to speak in support of both House Bill 4103 and 4309 is Megan Blue from the Michigan Health and Hospital Association. Also, not wishing to speak in support of 4103 and 4109 is Brett Marr from MHSA and representing the Michigan Occupational Therapy Association. In support of 4309, not wishing to speak is Jody McCullum from the Marquette Hospital Trauma Director, representing Michigan Academy of Physician Associates, and you have her testimony in front of you. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Thad Gormas, but we do appreciate you still speaking. From whether you like it or not, from Executive Director of the Michigan Academy of Physician Associates, and not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Nale Kalfis, PA Compact Legal Counsel for the Council of State Governments, in support of 4309. All right, thank you both. And now we will be hearing a presentation from Don Crandall of the Michigan Home Builders Association, or the Home Builders Association of Michigan. Thank you for coming. And Don, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Schutte and members of the committee for inviting me in to talk about the housing crisis that we are currently finding ourselves in the state of Michigan. As mentioned, I am Dawn Crandall. I'm the Executive Vice President of Government Relations for the Home Builders Association of Michigan, and if they could make my title a little bit longer, that would be awesome. Before I begin, I'd just like to lay kind of the foundation of where housing is in the state right now, because I think that will lead into my remarks on rules and regulations and ordinances. First, let me begin by saying our housing crisis is due to having more need or demand than we have supply. And not only with inventory, but with workforce, and depending on the impact of tariffs, possibly materials. And I always like to start with some statistics just to show the true meaning of why I say we're in a housing crisis. In 2005, there were roughly 54,000 single-family permits pulled in this state. By 2007, that number had dropped to 15,000. By 2009, that number had dropped to 6,900. And our prediction for 2025 is about 15,728. Now, keep in mind, from that 05 to 2025, we have not peaked and valleyed. We have slowly done, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, and just gone over year. So it's not like in, 2009 and 10, we went to 12,000, then we dropped back down. We've slowly increased, but on average, we should be building anywhere from 25 to 30,000 homes a year just to keep on par. So if you go back to that 54,000 number, those homes are now reaching 20 years age. So they're coming into their age of needing possibly new roofs, new windows, new furnace, new air conditioners, which if you didn't buy a new air conditioner by the end of last year, those have gone up 25% due to an EPA rule that went into effect the end of last year. And so costs continue to rise. The average age of a home in the state of Michigan is around 50 years old, and this is due to not building enough homes, as I've mentioned. And as we look, those homeowners are looking to, if they're going to stay in their home, remodel their kitchen, which I just did and finished this week. Bathrooms, maybe build out their basement, create a home office. And then when you look at workforce in our state, the average age of a builder is about 58 years old. So our builders and our homes are roughly about the same age in this state. We have a nonprofit called Skilled to Build Michigan Foundation, and we work daily to be part of the solution in growing the workforce. We have a series of books for children. Some of you may have read them during March's Reading Month. Billy the Builder Bear Builds a House. We have Katie Leads the Crew. We have an activity book. And thanks to grant money from the state of Michigan, we've been able to reach in fiscal year 23 every 8th through 12th grader in the state with a book called Build Your Future, a complete guide to your career and skilled trades. We just received additional grant funding to reach 8th graders with a new version of that book. And hopefully soon, knock on wood, I didn't realize how long it took to actually create and publish a book. We will have a guidebook specifically for veterans as they are returning into citizenry to come into our industry. And then we are also a recognized credential through the Michigan Department of Education, CTE, construction trades programs. And over the last 3 years, we've credentialed over 400 students. And while that's a good start, it's not enough to meet demand. I wish I had a silver bullet solution to solving the housing crisis, but the residential building industry is a highly regulated industry. From being licensed and insured to following the Michigan Residential Code, local zoning ordinances, inspections, planning approval, permit fees, and permitting, the list goes on. Let me be clear, members of the Home Builders Association of Michigan have no problem following the rules, codes, and ordinances. But like any business, and being a builder is a business, we just don't swing a hammer for a living. They have payroll, insurance costs, taxes, and all the things that go into running a small business. They want consistency. And they want a process that operates in a timely manner. Time is money in our industry. I've heard stories of where there was a time in Eagle where you could get a permit in a timely fashion. That is not the case today. And our builders deal with code, zoning ordinances, and rules, and all those add to the cost of a home. Our National Association of Home Builders did a study in 2021. They conduct this survey every 5 years. It's a national average, and regulation adds about $94,000 to the cost of a new home. And I'm going to pull up a number real quick. The cost of a new home in 2025, the median cost is $430,000 in 2024. Good news is it has come down a little bit. It was $448,000, but income needed to qualify is $137,000 to qualify for that home. Every time you raise the cost of a home by $1,000, you price out 3,200 people from being able to get into a house. So I know when Mike Johnston was here, he spoke about the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. I'm going to touch on that briefly. We are in the process of adopting a new code in the state of Michigan. So the Michigan Residential Code has to be adopted no less than 3 years and no more than 6 years. We are currently building to the 2015 code. We can skip a code cycle, which we did skip the 2018, and we are in the process of looking at 2021. The 2021 was before JCAR. All my weeks are blending together. I'm going to say 2 weeks ago. Several members of that committee did not show up. We were asking that the 2021 be sent back to the Bureau of Construction Codes in Lara and asked them to bring the 2024 forward, as there was not a quorum. That was unable to be done. So the 2021 rules went back to Bureau of Construction Codes, and they are in the process. We have been very clear that if 2021 goes into effect, we will sue the state of Michigan. So that is currently where we are right now. We are working with other groups that also would like to see JCAR have more teeth put into it on some language to make that happen. It's been an issue for a long time. But that's just one example of where, it used to be that codes were promulgated with advisory councils for each code. That went away under the previous administration. We'd like to see that come back where stakeholders are actually designing the code. And until that happens, I think we'll continue to have problems. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you mentioned 94,000, I think it was the number you gave us, to start a house with the licensing and permitting and so forth. If 2021 were in effect, I believe that has residential fire suppression in it.
It
How
does.
much does
That
that
is
add?
actually, that has been removed. So in
Okay,
residential homes, that is not.
Okay.
That is not.
How much would that have added to a price of a house?
We hear numbers anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 per home. And then you look at, I mentioned, air conditioners went up due to an EPA standard, which we had no real say in. It was a federal issue. And then when you put in the ability to have, state stricter than federal rules, which went into effect last session, those are all things, some people will say, oh, it's, a couple $100 here, it's a couple $100 there. But when you add that all up, you're potentially keeping people out. And on issues that actually don't impact us, but previous speakers spoke about workforce, not having enough workforce. If the goal truly is to bring and grow Michigan's population, we need to do something to be able to create more housing that is safe and affordable, so that people can move here and live in a home that is energy efficient and safe for them to be in.
So the 94,000 was based on the 2015.
No, so that our national association does a national, they look at all zoning, so it's zoning, it's rules, it's codes. Every time you update a code, and again, it's a national average, it increases the cost about $10,000.
That's where I was going was, did you do a cost analysis for 2024?
2024 will increase as well. The difference is, though, through 2021, it's very direct on how you get to energy efficiency. You have to do A, B, C, D. I'm not a builder, so please use my examples as for what they are. But through the 2024, it's a point system. So if you put in more energy efficient windows, you may not have to put in as high insulation in the ceiling. So it actually ends up being a more energy efficient code with giving the builders the ability to use technology and product more efficiently as opposed to being so prescriptive.
Thank you.
Representative Aragona.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Don. Can you just repeat those numbers real quick for me? You said that the new code will raise, I think you said $10,000 to $15,000 per
That
cycle?
on national average, that's about what it is
Okay.
when you do a new code.
And then what was your number regarding pricing certain people out of homes? How much does it need to raise?
Every time you raise the cost of a home $1,000, you price about 3,200 people out of being in the market.
Okay, thank you. And last question, can you kind of go into a little bit, and if you can, I understand, but can you go into the basis of the lawsuit that you could potentially be bringing against the state because of the 21 code, why you might be doing it, and some of the I guess, factors within that code that your membership sees as pretty egregious?
Right. Part of it does go back to being able to use more of a point system to get to energy efficiency within the 24 code. Also, the 24 code is available in terms of being promulgated. It comes from the International Codes Council, and then the state has always modified it to be Michigan specific. If we start with 21, we're going to continue to be, behind in terms of we could look at 24 and move forward with 24 and skip the 21. There's a difference of opinion legally between our friends at Lara and our legal counsel, and that is why we will most likely be bringing lawsuit, which we've been pretty upfront about from day one.
Thank you, Don. So a couple of questions. The various permits that your members are applying for in constructing new homes, do you have any data or information on how long they're waiting on average for those permits, or any stories you can tell?
I can pull some of that. I know Eagle seems to be the biggest offender with our members. I can remember when Treasury used to be the biggest complaint I had in the departments, and now it's Eagle. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But we have heard stories where just simple tap-ins to current water lines has taken 9 months, where it should have probably taken 2. And so we're really looking at, is it a culture? Or is it a problem? I mean, it's a problem either way, but is it a cultural thing, or is it, is it a leadership issue? And so when you have that and you're talking about the need for workforce housing in the state or housing in general, according to MSHDA, we need 144,000 units today. That's not a build out over 10 years. When you have those holdups, it costs money, and it costs homes being built.
So it costs money for your developers. It costs money. It costs, the housing stock is not growing as quickly as it can. Okay. And then you mentioned, Treasury used to be the problem. Now it's Eagle. How many different state agencies or departments do your builders typically have to go through to construct a new home?
I hear mostly about Eagle, so I'm going to go with Eagle as the main offender. I haven't heard any other one, so honestly, I can't answer that question.
But if, I'm trying to build a home and I need to get a permit from Eagle, I need to get a permit from
your local,
yeah, mm-hmm.
It starts at the, once you get your plan approval, it starts at the local level and just moves its way up. So
Okay.
There's wetlands permits, there's, septic, there's sewer, there's brownfield development if you're doing a brownfield redevelopment and going through that process as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then, are you viewing in the skilled trades shortages of workers and the acuteness there? Do you view that and a difficulty to move people across state lines or encourage them to participate? Do you think that drives up housing costs?
So we really saw our loss in skilled trades about the time Katrina hit down south. So you look at that 08, 09 time, and we've just never recovered. So I've been at the Home Builders for a really long time. When I started, we had our 50th anniversary, and I've been there now for our 75th, and it's my goal not to be there for our 100th. But when I started, we had about 14,000 members, and we have about 4,500 right now. Now, that's a blend of builders, remodelers, and then associate members. So bankers, realtors, anything that ties into. And we see that the numbers are about 1/3 builder, 2/3 associate member. But our members left and they didn't come back. I take that back. I had one painter who said they came back. But they went to where the building was taking place: South Carolina, North Carolina, Louisiana, Texas. We've looked at a reciprocity program. We'd have to really look at how that would be structured, because not all states require licensing, and we do. So we'd have to be careful on how that happens.
Well, thank you. Any other questions, members of the committee? Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.